I'm just going to start by saying a big welcome to Satish Maneshinde. We go back a long way. And Mr. Ramesh Mahale, who is a huge public hero. He's the one who led the investigation on Ajmal Kasab, and as you know, it's one of the few successful investigations that we have in India. And Satish, of course, is always on the other side, so we're going to have fantastic perspective from both sides. He's one of our best known criminal lawyers in the country today. I'm not going to say much. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Dolphy D'Souza, who is the convener of today's session.
Good evening, friends. Still louder. Good evening, friends. Good evening. Thank you. We have two distinguished speakers today, and I would request the editor of Moneylife, Mr. Debashish Basu, to present the bouquet of flowers to Advocate Satish Maneshinde. I would request Mr. Yogesh Sapkale, the deputy editor of Moneylife, to present the bouquet of flowers to Mr. Ramesh Mahale. A police recruit was asked during his exam, "What would you do if you had to arrest your mother?" He answered, "I would definitely call for a backup." I have the privilege to introduce to you our first speaker, Advocate Satish Maneshinde, who graduated from the Karnataka University and Karnataka Law College. He was honored as an outstanding student in 1982 by the Karnataka University Law College. Advocate Satish Maneshinde was one of Mumbai's and is a top criminal lawyer. It has been a long and interesting journey for him, and he gives all the credit for his success to the bomb blast trial. He defended film star Sanjay Dutt ever since he was arrested. Dutt was the only accused amongst 12 who was denied bail by the High Court. So the case went to Supreme Court, and Advocate Maneshinde was able to get client out on bail. He was also appointed as special public prosecutor by the Indian government to conduct the trial of the Italian Marines trial. Advocate Maneshinde for over 33 years has been defending his clients in criminal, civil and matrimonial matters across the country. He also constantly participates in public debates in matters concerning law, and in particular reference to human rights violations. We can go on and on. We'd like to give more time to Advocate Maneshinde to share his wisdom. He's going to explain to us the rights of citizens, including redress in case of unlawful arrest and legal advice. What are the rights of the accused and witness? We have the privilege to present to you Mr. Maneshinde. A little bit louder. It gives a little bit of force.
Dear friends, in particular Sucheta and Debashish, ladies and gentlemen, sometime about a month or a fortnight ago, I received a SMS from Sucheta seeking my permission to be a part of this audience.
Speaker, not audience.
Speaker is also an audience. In fact, I'll be one of them a little later. So, and immediately thereafter, a friend of mine called me and said, "Phone message aa gaya?" I said, "Yeah." "Kiska?" Bola, "Rani Jhansi Rani ka." We always refer to her as such between two of us because right from the stock market fiasco in 1992, she is with the sword drawn, and anybody comes in between has no chance to escape. So you will realize that her statistics, her mastery of statistics is not something new. She learned it from a college and she is so focused on what she is doing. And so I had no option but to accept her invite and be here and share a few thoughts. It's quite ironical that both of us from Hubli, Dharwad have made it. I say I made it because I came from nowhere. When I came to Bombay in 1983, I just came with a medal from my university in the law examinations, and I had stood as a runner-up and outstanding student advocate in the Bar Council competitions for law students. First 18 months I didn't know anyone, It was only my books and my office. And I think the same goes with her. So only in 1992 when I met her, I said, aren't you Sunil's sister? That's how we became close. Her articles, her research is mainly touching upon the stock market and the financial market. A friend of mine always tells me that wherever and whenever there is a penal provision in the code of law, Satish is around. Because all roads lead to jail, but they go via Satish's office. So my practice in the first 18 months, 9 months was purely civil. Subsequently I met Mr. Jethalani and that's how I served with him for about 10 years. Branched off after the bomb blast case. That's why I owe my success, if I can call it so, to the bomb blast case, because I became very popular. So people don't have to search for my office today, they have to just go online and they get all my details. More so because I deal with the arrest and detention of accused. Some of them very powerful, some of them very rich, some of them very poor, but most of them who don't know their rights. The normal course that is adopted by any arresting authority, I'm sure there are a couple of police officers here, they may not be following this procedure. But most of the police officers or the arresting authority, like the customs officer or the income tax officer or enforcement officers or the FEMA or the money laundering, all that they do is go and pick up a guy. Though the law enjoins that the next of kin should be informed immediately, that they must show their identity. In Basu's case recently, the Supreme Court had to go all the way and define principles as to what are the niceties that a police officer should follow on arrest of a person. First thing is to show the identity. And I'm sure even if you ask every police officer, he feels that we're questioning his authority or affronting him or trying to question his arresting powers. So nobody shows their identity. Second one is that in case you want to arrest, even by touching a person, you can arrest him. What normally is done is that they handcuff him, take him to the van, parade him in front of the TV. The new concept that the arresting authority follows these days is he carries half the time, if it's a famous personality or a film personality or a rich and powerful person, they would carry a TV team around them or inform the TV or tip them well in advance, so that by the time he is arrested and brought to court, he is already condemned. And then you get all your news channels. I don't want to name them, each one of them is worse than the other. They will realize it only when this kind of a thing happens to them. Like it happened a long time back when Indian Express had to face 280 cases. So by the time the person is brought to court, he is already condemned. But the Supreme Court has said in Basu's case that moment a person is arrested, he must be informed in writing of the grounds of his arrest. in writing. A panchnama has to be carried out on the spot about the belongings that have been seized from him, about the search that has taken place in his premises. Normally, none of this is carried out. Under section 100 of the CrPC, any officer carrying out a search is called upon to take two respectable personalities from the locality where the search or the offence has taken place. But invariably, the investigating authority does not follow this procedure. They go to a person's house or office, carry out search, seize whatever they want, take it to a police station, make a list, and then call two slum dwellers and then make a panchnama. I am not belittling slum dwellers because they are also, citizens of this country, or people who are having a store or whatever next to their shops, next to the police station, or a tea vendor, and they are made to sign as witnesses. The search that takes place is the most important thing in an investigation. Suppose a weapon has to be seized, or some documents are to be seized, or some currency which has been stolen has been seized. It is the punch witnesses. They are called punch witnesses because they observe a panchnama. They are supposed to come and tell the court as to what they actually saw was happening to give authenticity to the search that has taken place. Now, if these persons have no permanent residence, they don't have a permanent place of business, how would you expect these gentlemen to come to a court? And each one of them earns about 50 to 100 rupees at today's value in the market. Why will they sacrifice their income for that particular day and come to a court of law? So therefore, when a person is arrested, first of all, the identity of the officer arresting is not flashed. Secondly, the next of kin is not informed of the grounds of arrest, or the person is not informed. Even if somebody is arrested on the road, the law enjoins, the Supreme Court judgment enjoins that a telephone call or some information should be relayed to the family of the person who has been picked up. None of this takes place. Now, as we see in the American courts, whether it actually happens or no, I am not sure. He is told that he is entitled to a legal practitioner of his choice to be advising him. Even Indian law provides that a person who is arrested must be informed of his legal rights to legal consultancy. None of this unfortunately takes place. Why is it so happening in our country? First of all, 90% of the detainees who are arrested, they don't know their rights. Other 9% who are arrested are so scared of the investigating authority that they don't even dare to ask them. The 1% who are arrested, they flash names of superiors or political leaders, due to which the investigating officer doesn't succumb. He gets more aggressive. Before anything takes place, he goes and makes a diary entry or a case registered so that nobody can interfere, even if it's a genuine case where interference is called for. So therefore, what is happening in our country today is not something which we have inherited from some other system. It was what was happening much before independence, much before the British came, much before the Rajas and Maharajas came, that suppress the oppressed class, keep our citizens illiterate, do not educate them. Now the fact that so many people are coming to courts is not because that they have all of a sudden started enforcing law. It is because a large number of persons have come to know or are aware of their rights. The Chief Justice of India recently gave figures that 2 crores of cases are pending in our country. Every day 10% of cases are increasing. That is not because the laws are being enforced properly, but because people have become aware of their rights. So therefore, if the investigating machinery right from the inception is committing illegalities, they do not follow any of these procedures, who is to be benefited? ultimately it is the accused who are benefited in a court of law when the matter comes up for trial. So, it's always said, first 10 to 20 years, my entire practice was, bail applications that was to appear for accused. So, even now, when I see some old articles, they always say Satish is the man to go. Because you go deeper into the facts of the case, get a person through a court of law on bail. Once a person is granted bail, the case doesn't come up for trial for the next 5 to 10 years in the present schedule of our courts. Therefore, with the lapse of time, number one, the investigating officer retires. So the papers in that case are lost. Even if the officer is, some of the officers, some diligent officers like Mr. Mahale who is here, they would carry the originals home even after their retirement, because they know that once they retire, the case in which they have investigated the case properly would not see the light of the day. Even if it comes before a court, for lack of documents, original documents, the case goes blank. So they carry such papers home, and when they retire, they come back to the court and say that they are in safe custody and produce them. If you go to a branch called the Economic Offences Wing, if not now, at least 10 to 20 years back, you wouldn't know where the papers are in each case. They'd be so messed up that ultimately it would benefit the accused. The law enjoins that moment an investigation is complete, a charge sheet has to be filed along with the original documents of the case to be kept in the thana of the court. But none of this happens in Mumbai. When I started practicing in Mumbai, there was a magistrate called Mr. Verma in 1985. He asked me, Mr. Maneshinde, are you practicing under the Criminal Procedure Code or the Bombay Procedure Code? Because Bombay Procedure meant nothing. So in such cases, the efforts that are taken by such diligent officers goes a waste. So therefore, I was on search. After the search is completed, the officer, if he is diligent, makes a proper list, hands over a copy to the accused, according to law, and thereafter he starts recording statements of witnesses. Between you and me, the investigating methods that are still prevalent today are that when an accused is arrested and brought to a lockup or a police station, first he is so mercilessly beaten up if it is a serious crime that before anything happens, he admits to the crime, pleads guilty. That's why you would see in the papers that the accused has pleaded guilty and the case has been cracked. That's not an investigation. Investigation is to collect evidence. When a murder or a rape or any serious dacoity or a crime takes place, the scientific division of the crime investigation cell or the police has to reach the spot, pick up the blood stains, pick up the weapons, pick up the strands of hair, pick up fingerprints, have a chemical analysis done. In Grover's case, which his girlfriend and another boy were convicted, they were convicted only on DNA evidence. That are the painstaking efforts of the police team that took place in that time. So such methods are still available. Instead of beating up an accused and make him admit to a crime, normally when accused is brought to a police station, he is beaten up so mercilessly that he gives out everything. Then the police start going backwards, collecting evidence of those people who have been named as witnesses by the accused himself. That is not investigation. Investigation is what they did in Kasab's case. When they brought him to the police station, when they picked him up at Marine Drive, they brought him and he was investigated even in the hospital. Efforts were taken to go and collect evidence. That does not happen in most of the cases. So therefore, each one of you, I don't expect any one of you to get involved in criminal cases, but if and when it happens, you must be aware that these are the rights of an accused. Thereafter, if there are witnesses which are quite shaky, many of them, they get scared of the accused and don't come back to court. So these days, in a majority of serious cases, statements are recorded before a magistrate under 164 of the CrPC, so that if he turns turtle or hostile, like it happened in Salman's case, the magistrate's evidence can be taken into consideration to say that this man said so. If a magistrate comes to a court and says that a statement of an accused or a witness has been recorded by him on oath, after giving him all warnings that this could be used against him or used against a trial, that statement can be relied upon. So even in cases where some of you become victims of a crime, you should insist that wherever there are important witnesses, statements should be recorded before a magistrate under 164, so that tomorrow if any one of them turns hostile, that provision can be used so that, the victim of the crime gets benefited by some redressal of justice. Therefore, these are the few aspects that somebody has to be aware of. Thereafter, when a trial comes before a court, I always see, it reminds me, in 1995-1996, I had finished a game of golf in the US club in Colaba. We had a couple of beers. That time drinking and driving was not so serious. So me and my friend were in separate cars were driving, and as I came up near the RTI, Ratan Tata Institute at Hughes Road, I saw that the traffic on one side has totally stopped on the top of the bridge, and the other lane, the traffic was passing smoothly but slowly. I could see that there was some commotion on the bridge. The headlights of a car were on. I, being a lawyer, though I must have had a couple of beers, took my car on the wrong side, put my headlights on and drove up to the bridge. And there I saw that a motorcycle had been knocked down. The rider had fallen off the ground. He had hit the ground and he was bleeding. The blood had almost flown right up to the bottom of the bridge. And I could see every driver, every occupant of a car having a look at it, opening the window up and down and closing it and driving off. I even saw cars going that way. Today, none of our citizens want to come out of their cars or get on and save a human life which is on the road. That is because they don't want to participate in investigations. They are scared of going to a court. They are scared of going to a police station. Because the first thing that a person who brings an injured to a police station or to a hospital is asked, what were you doing there at this time of the night? He is being interrogated as if he is an accused. On the contrary, he has come to help. So therefore, there is a tendency amongst our citizens not to join any investigations. Therefore, even if a person is dying on the road, people leave him to bleed to death instead of taking care of him. I am sure had that accident taken place in Dharavi or some corner like Malad, he would have been lifted immediately to a hospital and that boy would have been saved. This is the attitude of our citizens in Bombay. Similarly, in Delhi, you must have seen, recently a guy was knocked down and nobody came to help that guy. He must have bled to death. Therefore, first of all, there is no discipline in our society. Secondly, people don't want to join investigations. Therefore, the police are left to fend for themselves to procure these witnesses. So this is how they get their witnesses in many a number of cases. Most of them get planted. So criminal lawyers like me have hardly any role to play in a court of law when we face with such witnesses. Because we know that they are speaking through their teeth. And then comes the pendency of litigation in courts. Recently, the Chief Justice of India said that the Prime Minister is not addressing the pendency of cases in our courts and the appointment of judges. I must remind you that this pendency of cases in a criminal court or in any court is not something new to our system. Because judiciary is the most neglected system of the three pillars of the democracy. You always will find that the members of parliament and the assembly are granting themselves higher perks, higher salary, better comforts If you visit any minister's office or his residence or an MLA, you will not see him sitting without an air conditioner or a 5-star accommodation or a neatly made premises. It reminds me, in 1990 I had visited Aurangabad in connection with the dispute between two brothers fighting over a brand of liquor, Officer's Choice, in Aurangabad. There were 10 lawyers on each side because that time they were fighting over an empire which was controlling 60% of the liquor market in India. So when we went to the court, it was in such a pathetic condition that the judge had a chair for himself. There was a large table and 2 chairs. Where will the other lawyers sit? Where will the litigant sit? Where will the witnesses who come to court, who are to wait from morning till evening, sit? At the most, outside the court hall, you will find a tamarind tree under which there is a katta constructed where the witnesses and other people rest around waiting for cases. So, judiciary is the most neglected system in our country. Amongst the judiciary, the High Court and the Supreme Court are in comfortable accommodations and atmosphere. You will see that the Supreme Court of India is one of the best buildings in the country, where everything is air conditioned. High courts are in august buildings which are now being air conditioned, and we find that there is some semblance of a court hall. But if you go to the lower judiciary like the district court, like the magistrates court or a civil judges court, the infrastructure is pathetic. You wouldn't even want to go there and enter a courtroom, because it is my experience that if I go to a lower court it doesn't mean that it is something too low in hierarchy, but in the hierarchy of judiciary, the magistrates court, earlier we used to always carry an extra sheet of paper or a file, not as a protection against rain or sun, but to keep it under our seat so that the bugs don't bite us. This is the condition of our courts. Now you will ask me, where are the maximum number of cases pending? The maximum cases are pending in the lower courts, not in the High Court and the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has about 50,000 cases pending. The High Courts have 20,000 cases. Rest of the pendency is in the lower judiciary. The poor magistrates and civil judges don't have a proper seat to sit. Many times, if you have gone to any of these courts starting at the first step, you will see that their chamber is right across the dais, and there are 2 curtains put on either side as if he is put in a burqa. This is not a working atmosphere where a judicial officer who has unbridled power to impose any amount of compensation in a civil case or decree a suit of any number of crores. Mind you, the courtroom where I had gone to in Aurangabad, where there were only 2 chairs, had unlimited jurisdiction, financial jurisdiction to award any suit, any amount of compensation. So if that is a court left, what are we talking about modernizing in India? If the learned Chief Justice of India wants to curb pendency of cases, they must first look at the lower judiciary. Because in every district, there is a district judge who has about 20 to 25 additional district judges, whereas magistrates courts and other courts are totally neglected. These appointments have to be made by the High Court in consultation with the state government. The interviews and everything is taken up by the higher judiciary for these magistrates and civil judges. You will always see that in the military, if the chief of the army staff or if the commander of the 6 commands or a battalion is retiring, a replacement is announced at least 6 weeks in advance. The higher you go, more stricter it is. Similarly, the Chief Justice of India's position is never left vacant. Whereas High Courts are functioning, 8 High Courts are functioning today with 8 acting Chief Justices. This wouldn't happen in a military. This wouldn't happen in the ministry. So we have to blame the system that is there as to why the pendency has increased. Similarly, at least 1/3 of the judges in the lower courts, in the magistrates and the civil judges courts, are lying vacant. Another 1/3 of them go on these long leaves. When we have an August 15th coming on a Monday and a Parsi New Year on a Wednesday, Tuesday is taken as the chutti, and poor litigants go to a court without knowing that the judge has gone on leave. The Delhi High Court recently made an announcement or issued a notification that judges will not go abroad during court working days. Now, why should only that rule be imposed while going abroad? The number of hours that the courts function, the superior courts, I mean High Court and the Supreme Court, are 210 days for the High Court and a lesser number of days for the Supreme Court. If a state government employee can work other than those days where he is entitled to a casual leave of 30 days in a month, and the mandatory Saturdays and Sundays, that too a second Saturday and a fourth Saturday as a holiday, and Sundays as a holiday, roughly they go on holiday for about 60 to 70 days. Why can't courts work longer? So one of these reasons why delay in disposal of cases is taking place is because the judiciary works the least amongst all the systems. Secondly, the government has added to this by keeping our citizens illiterate. Thirdly, the police reforms that are to take place are only in the books. You see a constable at the lowest level in the constabulary. He is travelling all the way from Kalyan or Pune to attend a job of 8 hours in Mumbai. But actually you must count his travel time all over the world. The travel time is taken as part of a duty. If that is taken, each one of them is working for 12 to 16 hours a day. So how do you expect that gentleman to give his best and efficient service to the nation? There is no housing, there is no transport, and a person who leaves the police station, he is left to his mercy. He gets mingled with the crowd. He doesn't even get any privileges. And if by some chance a police constable sees a lady's compartment vacant and travels in that, he is penalized. So the law is working both ways. The administration and the executive is not providing any efforts, any comforts, and the judiciary is coming down heavily on such violations. Therefore, you will find so much of frustration in our law enforcing agencies that what they do is actually seen in a police station. Initially, when I went to a local police station at the start of my practice, I had filed a criminal case. I am not only a defender of criminals, I prosecute a large number of them as a private prosecutor. So I become a prosecutor in a number of, at least 50% of the cases. So I had filed a case on behalf of a film producer during that time, where his monies were defalcated, about 40 to 50 lakhs in 1984. So I still remember I had gone to the Andheri police station. So the senior inspector informed me that the case has been given to the detection branch. The detection branch is a part of the police which investigates serious crimes and offences or treats these serious offenders to a special treatment. So what do I do there? So the officer told me, Mr. Maneshinde, do you want your money or you want to prosecute him? My money means my client's money. I said my client will be happy if he gets his money back, or at least 60 to 70% of it back. So he said, we'll give him this treatment. So he took me to the detection room. What do I see there? A blank wall with 2 hooks on the wall. There was a bench, there was a drum full of water. In one corner I found a roller, and there was one more piece which is called a Satyachodak belt. That belt is carved out of the flour mill belt, which is used in a flour mill, cut into pieces and put on the handle as a mason uses. So I didn't know much about all this, so I asked one of the constables as to what is all this happening. So he said, "Sir, moment the ROP is brought in the lockup here or in the detection room, we pour enough water on him and start hammering him with this belt. First, it starts with the palms, the legs. So these belts don't leave any mark of injury on a person. You'll see only a swelling on it." Then I asked him, "What is this roller?" He said, "Sir, it's called a roller treatment. We make the accused lie down on a bench, one constable on each side. We roll this roller on the thighs of an accused. It leaves no marks. If he still doesn't succumb, the two hooks on the wall are used to hang him upside down." So these are the treatments which even today take place. In 1997-98, I was invited as a speaker at Nagpur, where the Bar Council of Maharashtra had a seminar on scientific methods of investigation. Luckily today, before I could open my mouth, I was informed that I am the first speaker. Otherwise, Mr. Mahale would have said everything about investigation and I would be left speechless. But on that day, when I went, I had carried out a research on scientific investigation, like scientific method of collection of evidence, forensic evidence, handwriting experts' evidence. Truth serum had just come in, what they used on Telgi, brain mapping and all these. But 7 to 8 speakers before me spoke of all these, and there was nothing left for me to speak. So then I said, now that we are speaking about scientific investigation, let us speak about non-scientific investigation that takes place in a police station. This was the way when I was in the 5th standard, we thought that an essay would come. I was from a Kannada medium vernacular school going to an English medium school. So all of us had memorized each one essay to write. So I had chosen cricket match. But as I opened the question paper, the question was about a train journey. So I didn't know what to do. So I said that my train left exactly on time at 7 o'clock. We reached the station, railway station. And as usual, the train stopped in the middle of the road, middle of the track. And when I looked right, there was a cricket match going on. So I ended my essay to say that when the cricket match got over, then my train journey began and we reached the destination. That's how I used this non-scientific investigation that I am speaking to you of now in that seminar. But mind you, this still takes place. You must have seen a lot of accused coming to court being dragged by 3 to 4 constables. That's not because he's reluctant to come to a court. That's because he's beaten up so badly on his legs and on his palm and on his thighs that he is unable to walk. Many a time, when a person is brought before a court of law, the magistrate asks him a mandatory question. Do you have any complaint against the police? Mind you, none of them complains. Because they know that lest they complain, in case he is handed back to the police station, he will not see the magistrate again. That is the scare in him, because he has gone through the treatment. It's now that, the High Court in Mumbai as well as the Supreme Court has been passing judgments to put CCTV cameras all over the police stations. I don't know if the government of Maharashtra will install in all police stations, in all nooks and corners of the police station. But some reforming is taking place. But then it's not free from any misuse. Because under the guise of investigation, accused can be always pulled out of a lockup and taken out for investigation. So what happens there, we don't know. Many times you hear that the accused who was being taken from point A to point B in a local train, handcuffed, escaped in the darkness. How he escaped, when he escaped, what happened to him is never heard of because you will never see his face again. So these ill treatments do take place. I don't blame the entire police machinery. Like we always speak about corruption in judiciary. There are black sheep. Those black sheep are increasing. But the entire judiciary is getting a bad name. Because any accused who comes to me or any litigant who comes to a lawyer will first ask him, do you know this judge? He will not ask you whether my case has any merit. Because people are fed up. Number one, of the judiciary. Number two, of the costs involved. And number three, of the executive and the police machinery. If you have seen this morning's paper, Gupta, who was an efficient secretary in the coal ministry, has made a statement that I do not want to have the services of a lawyer. I cannot afford his fees. I want to go back to jail and serve my sentence and fight my case. This happens in a large number of cases. The Chief Justice of India made a statement the other day that majority of the accused complete their sentence when their proceedings are pending in a court of law. I used to have an old man who was accused of drug offences. His case took him 9 years. The trial took him 9 years, but he was held guilty. Under the Narcotics Substances Act, where drug offenders are punished, there is no remission. Remission means, like Sanjay Dutt, out of 5 years, he served about 40 months, including parole and others, because he got remission. The normal penal code gives you remission, but under special laws like the TADA or the MOCA or the POTA or the Narcotics Substances Act, NDPS, there is no remission. Even in spite of the fact that you have had a good behavior in a jail, you can't come out on furlough or parole or get a lesser sentence. You'll have to complete the 10 years. So that gentleman, Mr. Rego, told me, Satish, don't take any efforts. Even if I am being granted bail, I do not want to deposit the lakh or two which the court is asking me to deposit and get freedom only for a couple of months. I would as well serve my sentence and come out. He came out and he died. Similarly, one more guy who was in the same case, he died during trial. I don't know if people followed Datta Saman's case. I used to appear for the offenders that time. So there were 4 killers. 3 of them were arrested. One of them said that, sir, I don't want to, keep fighting my case because I know I'm going to be convicted. The second person was so sick, suffering from AIDS that time, then he said that, sir, even if I am getting out, justice is being done in the sense that, I am getting divine justice. God is taking me away from the system much sooner than others. So these are the feelings of the accused that we've come in a court of law. There is a solution to this. One is educate our citizens, make them aware of their rights. When we're outside, we're just talking about the kind of cases that are coming up. We see an increase in the divorce cases. So jocularly I told Sucheta that my daughter also did a few divorce cases. So she said, why divorce? I said, it's a fertile ground. Because the rate of divorce cases that is increasing in the court of law today is 100% every month. That's because women are getting aware of their rights, women empowerment. If that is happening in a divorce court, why could it not happen in a criminal court? Why could an accused not be made aware of his rights? We speak about, Swachh Bharat, Make in India. How are we going to invite billions of dollars coming into a country if we cannot give them a stable judicial system? We cannot give them a speedier judicial system. This can be done by increasing the number of judges. In fact, at the time of independence, Bombay, then it was called, had 46 magistrates. Today we have 76 magistrates. In the last 70 years, the government has been in a position to increase a strength of only 30 magistrates in Bombay. The number of cases that have gone on is almost 100% increase every year. So how do we meet the system? Therefore, we always say that the rich always grow richer and the poor always grow poorer. Similarly, in the judicial system, the people who seek justice and who will get justice are minuscule. 99% of them suffer. So with this, I'll conclude.